Germany's new World War III plan, conscription, job restrictions, 1 meal per day. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ainslie Insights, brought to you by Ainslie Bullion, Ainslie Crypto, and the Gold and Silver Standard as the Ainslie Group celebrates 50 years. Today, we welcome back Sam, who's written what I would consider to be quite an alarming article today about the potential for a devastating World War III setup involving Germany. How are you going today, Sam?
Good, Chris. How are you?
I'm very good. Well, I was better before I read your article. It got me a little bit concerned. So
Yeah.
you're really talking today about Germany preparing for some major restrictions potentially in the event of World War III. Do you think this means that we're right at the doorstep of World War III? Is it a likely scenario, or is this just a possibility you're talking about?
Well, they're projecting possibility towards, in a few years. They think it'll be 2029. Potentially, the conflict with Ukraine will spill over into Europe. But actually, we don't really know if we're in World War III now or not. So, just for example, World War II was considered to have started in 1939 with German invasion of Poland. But then other people consider it 1937 when Japan started invading the rest of China. And then yet again, other people might consider it 1931 when Japan took over Manchuria and made sort of a puppet state there with a leader that would do anything Japan told him to do. So we don't really know when a world war starts. It's not like New Year's Eve when they have a countdown and have fireworks go off. It's really historians look back and try to guess when it all started. So look, it could have been October 7th. It could have been, the initial kickoff between Russia and Ukraine, or it could be coming in the future. So we actually don't we can't really say if there's a definitive start, but they are looking for it to ramp up in a few years.
And I think that's what struck me most about the article is exactly that point that it's not necessarily an event that determines we are now at
Yeah.
war. It's this build-up that occurs, and we've certainly seen that. And it really made me look at it through a different lens and look at it in a different way because I thought, oh, well, hang on, you make a good point there. We could already be in that, and we don't know until the future as things continue to escalate. And we look back and say, well, it was quite obvious in hindsight. Those were the events that led us to this situation. I see you noted some very specific things that they were planning for. There was the one hot meal per day, giving military priority on railways, roads, crucial work has been available every day, those sorts of things, which make a lot of sense. Is this how you see, like, is it really just planning for the worst? Is it something that they potentially would look to implement or trial? How are you looking at that? What was the actual background behind all of that?
Well, yeah, they're preparing, for shutting down travel, overstressing essential workers, having supply shortages, and looking at their document just made me wonder if the German government remembers, 4 years ago, 2020. So, because it's all the same stuff essentially, just planning for it again. The only difference here being that the military will be the reason. So shutting down travel, so the military has priority, overstressing essential workers because a good percent of the population will be fighting or potentially hospitalized. And I think this scenario is pretty normal for a population. I mean, they've brought back conscription, or they're talking about bringing back conscription. And the funny thing about that is a lot of countries say that they don't have conscription. They're not going to essentially draft people into the war, but then when a war starts, suddenly things change. So there's not really a point of a
Mm.
country saying we don't have conscription or we don't have a military draft, because when a war happens, that all changes anyway. So you look at Germany. Germany just got rid of their conscription in, I think it was 2011, and now they're saying we're going to bring it back. With just a few years later, really in the scope of long term. But they also mention subways being turned into, bomb shelters and this sort of thing. So I think it's been a really, really long time of peace for Europe,
Mm.
America, Australia. We haven't really seen the normal pattern of, being involved in a devastating war, and it just makes me wonder if the time has come for other allies of Ukraine, for example, to be dragged into this, and potentially China to be China's already getting kind of dragged through the mud in international news for not condemning Russia enough, or potentially helping Russia. So it looks like a lot of people are starting to get dragged into this escalation.
What when you talk about the things like the conscription, I suppose what popped into my mind is it has been a long time, as you said, since we've been in anything resembling that. And I wonder if some of their reactions here, when they talk about conscription and the 1 meal a day and all these people, does that actually factor in what a modern war might even look like? Because I can imagine, for example, that conscription would be almost very different to what it was back in when you're talking about those historical massive wars. Because do you need different types of people, for example? We know there's a lot of tech involved in modern warfare, there's drones, there's all this sort of stuff. Is it potentially even different people to what it used to be that now you need operators of equipment, or is it a different skill set? It really blows my mind that some of the things they're saying seem like they're from a time long past, and it could be quite different going into a future conflict.
Well, it would have to be. And it's a good thing that technology's increased, because most people today can't do one push-up. They can't pass the physical to get into the military. So militaries around the Western world or the first world, you've seen the criteria to enter go almost to nothing. It's getting to a really easy level because they're trying to draw people in. And it will be interesting. You look at Twitter and you see how many little Ukraine flags are next to profiles. It'll be interesting to see how many of those remain there when they're told you have to go to war, you have to go pick up a gun and fight. So
A
yeah, it
lot,
is
a lot of keyboard
different
warriors,
generation.
not necessarily built
Yeah.
up army warriors. And I mean, that's been the criticism. And quite provocatively, people say, well, if you like it so much, I'll pay for your one-way ticket to go and fight in those wars for people who clearly, do not have the skill set necessary to fight a war. Like, that's quite crazy. Have you seen any specific additional escalations? I know you've been sort of looking at this for a little bit, and recently there's a lot in the news. It feels like some stuff is escalating. Is that what you've noticed of late?
Well, yeah, so this was obviously done over the long weekend, this article, but just in the last 24 hours, it looks like Ukraine, who have gotten warplanes from other countries, namely Europe and the United States, looks like they have successfully hit a target inside of Russia. So not in the area they're saying should be Russia, should be Ukraine, not in the disputed territories, but they actually fired we don't know what sort of weapon it was, perhaps a missile from a fighter jet inside Russian territory and destroyed a target. That's a clear escalation. You can't get much more of an escalation than that. Now, Russia and the Russian people, they're going to be seeing this. Okay, Ukrainian forces have shot a city inside of Ukraine. So you can imagine if we were having a scuffle in the Pacific Sea, and then someone went and shot a missile into Darwin or into Cairns and blew up a target, that would be a very clear escalation. Now, this shouldn't be a surprise, because Biden recently said he authorizes any US weapons given to Ukraine to be used for targets inside of Russia. And that's what he's talking about. So this could be the Ukrainian leader, putting his toes in the water and say, okay, let's give it a try, and let's blow something up inside of Russia and see what happens. And what they're really relying on is other countries, such as, the US, Australia, UK, all these other countries that are, supposed to come together and help out fight Russia. They're really depending on us coming and saving the day if it escalates.
Pretty scary thought that we're even having these conversations. But I think, probably in summary for me, the scariest part of all of that is what we said earlier, the fact that it sneaks up on you. We don't necessarily notice, yet here we are, a lot of those things in place that we could be looking back and saying, well, that was when World War III started, and we're already in it. That's, yeah, quite terrifying, actually. It was a really useful article for me. So thank you for your work that you put into that, and bringing sort of those issues to light. But it'll be something I'm sure you'll be continuing to watch, and we'll continue to discuss. So thank you for that.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll chat again soon.